Howdy folks, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Bucketfridge. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel. Today I have a video for you about 5 tips that will help you be ready to swap mains to the new characters coming out. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and let's hop right into it. Alright, tip number 1, probably the most important one. What we need to do is we need to get to our strongholds so we can do some research. So go to your management tab, and then go to your lab to do the research. What you'll see is under roster help, there is research for tier 2 and for tier 3. What these will do is will give you a 20% increase to your success rate in tier 2, and then also reduce the amount of shards that you need per honing attempt. As the power pass drops us up at 960, these will really help you speed through tier 2 and get to tier 3. And speaking of tier 3, there is also a tier 3 research that you can do. The only unfortunate part about the tier 3 is that it requires you to have a 1385 character previously. So you still have plenty of time, probably 3 weeks or so, to get your main to 1385 so you can do this research. This will save you a tremendous amount of gold, especially since tier 3 mats are the most expensive. Even though it is initial gold up front, in the long run, it'll save you time and money. Also, down in the comments below, tell me what classes you guys are excited for. Are you going to play the Glaivier, the Destroyer, or are you waiting for another class to come out? Leave a comment down below and tell me which one you're most looking forward to. All right, tip number 2. The next thing that we need to do now that we got our research done, now we need to make use of the research by collecting mats. So there are plenty of ways to collect mats, and I'm sure you guys know most of them, but just in case, I'll give you a general overview of all the different ways that you can use the different resources in the game to start stockpiling mats. The first very simple one that I'm sure everybody does every week, but just to make sure, you are going to every character that you can and buying all the tier 2 and the tier 3 mats for your character. Unfortunately, life shard pouches and honor shard pouches, or any pouches in general, are untradeable. The only tradable ones from the pirate vendor are the destruction and guardian stones for both tier 2 and for tier 3. Next, we want to make sure that we're doing our chaos dungeons, and we want to make sure that we do more than just our 2 with our aura of resonance. We want to do some extra afterwards, because when we do extra afterwards, as I'm sure you all know, you're able to get these red stones and the purple stones. And what those allow you to do is to exchange all the mats that you might need in tier 2 or in tier 3. The nice thing about the tier 3 ones is that these are unlimited farming. You can farm to your heart's content. You could farm for 10 hours if you wanted to. It's all up to you. So if you start stockpiling these, you can figure out which mats you'll need for your character as you're leveling them up, and have these at your disposal for whenever you need them. 2 other very helpful vendors are your guild vendor here for the bloodstones for donating and contributing to the guild. As you can see, those have different limits as well, depending on what level your guild is. So you can get everything from tier 1 to tier 3, but again, the life pouches, or any pouch for that matter, is untradeable. So make sure that you are just picking up the tradable materials, and you can get them for quite cheap, as well as making sure that you're also taking advantage of the new PvP vendor. The new PvP vendor allows the same thing. When you get the different coins of courage for completing PvP, you will get the ability to be able to purchase mats from here. Same thing goes, just like from the other 2 vendors. You can't trade the pouches, but you can trade everything else in there. So make sure you're taking advantage of those vendors as well. Another trick that you can do that I don't know if most people know this, but you can go to the store and use Mari's shop and purchase items and just not claim them. So what do I mean by this? So I'll show you. So for example, my character being in tier 3, let's say I wanted to pick up some Solar Grace, right? But I wanted to leave it for my alt. What I could do is I could buy the Solar Grace here, blam, buy the Solar Grace, and then make sure when it asks you to claim it, you cancel. So we cancel it, and what we do is that we can then see that we have 2 items ready to be claimed over here. And what we can do is we can do the tier 2 mats or the tier 3 mats and just leave them in this window for our alt or our new main. Another great place for mats is your Rift exchange. You get Rift shards from doing your Chaos portals. The Chaos portals will provide you this currency, which is redeemable at any Rift exchange vendor in any of the major cities. And these will give you a secret map, whether you pick tier 2 or tier 3, it's up to you. And they will allow you to collect some resources from inside there. And so what you can do is you can hold on to them and wait for your new character to get to that point, or you can stockpile the shards themselves and do them on your new character if you'd prefer to do it that way. Also, the tower. The tower provides an immense amount of materials. Unfortunately, there is no tier 3 tower yet, but the tier 2 tower can be a great way to finish getting the last of the mats that you need to get to tier 3. One of the other added benefits of the tower, especially if you're playing the new class Glaivier, is that you're going to be able to practice playing the Glaivier in the tower and kind of get a better feel for your new character before you get to tier 3. I'll just briefly touch on the last method. The last method is you can just use the auction house to buy mats of tier 2 and tier 3. The reason you might want to do this now is because prices are fairly low still. So even if you invest in some mats now and need gold later, you can probably sell these for more than you bought them. Though this is probably not applicable to everybody, as not everybody has a lot of extra gold lying around nowadays. So you're probably wondering, how many mats do I need to stock up on? Well, the nice thing is somebody has already done the math for you. You can go to a website called maxroll.gg and go down to their gear honing guide, and they will have all the costs ready and laid out for you, exactly how much you'll need for your armor and for your weapons. And as you can see, we don't start even having a chance to fail until we get to plus 11, as we have the 20% extra research from our stronghold. So what we can do about this too is once we get to this 70% mark, you want to start stockpiling Moon's Breath. That is the rate up material, the blue little star, and that will help you make sure that you have a 100% success rate for as long as you have those materials. It's also very helpful that they have tier 2 and tier 3. And as you can see in tier 3, things start to go up drastically in regards to mats and even just gold and silver cost required to do those. Since those are very, very crucial in honing, you can't hone without them, obviously. We have another section prepared for those, so stay tuned. Tip number 3, you need to start stocking up on gold and silver. One of the best ways to get silver is by doing your low paying dailies. If you're not sure about the low paying dailies, I will link a video in the description that has an in-depth guide. But for the points of this video, I will just briefly touch on doing your low paying dailies. They provide a substantial amount of silver for you, and you want to be doing them on as many of your alts as possible. You usually don't want to do them on your main, as you usually want to be acquiring leapstones. But if you're set on leapstones for now, you can even do them on your main if need be, depending on how much silver you want to stock up. Unfortunately, gold is going to be a little harder to stock up on. I'm sure you're all experiencing kind of the dip in the market that's been going on. Prices have been dropping, and it's harder to make gold now than it ever has been. One of the things that I like to do personally is on my tier 3 character is I sell my destruction stones, as they are the most bang for your buck. And what I do is I only sell the tradable ones and then use the untradable ones that I acquire to do my honing. So what I try to do is never use tradable mats, only use your untradable mats, whether you want to stockpile them or sell them. One of the other things you could do for gold as well is start crafting the simple fusion materials and selling those now, or holding on to them, because these probably will eventually rise when the new patch does come out as well. But all this will require you to do is just have a little bit of a time investment to go farm the materials in the variety of ways to do that. All right, tip number 4, and my personal favorite, is doing some research into the class that you plan on playing and making your new main. So one of the first things that we need to do is figure out our engravings. Engraving prices will skyrocket, and I promise you they will skyrocket when the new classes comes out. Whatever ones that they will need, you will see a drastic increase in price. So what you want to do now is figure out which one those are and get them before the inflation happens. What I'll do is I'll link 2 videos down below, one for the Glaivier and one for the Destroyer, that will help you figure out which engravings you'll need. So for example, I plan on playing the Destroyer. I leveled up Master Brawler and Supercharge, and I'm working on getting Barricade and Grudge, all of which my Destroyer will need. The reason we want to do that again is because once everybody figures out what engravings they need for the Glaivier or Destroyer, those prices will increase drastically. Do not get caught buying them for 3 or 4 times the price compared to what they are now. As we can see, let's go look on the auction house. Engraving recipes are pretty cheap, even the more expensive ones. So let's do one of the more expensive ones like Grudge. Even now, the recipes aren't that expensive. 17 gold for the purple ones is really, really good. I promise you, when the events go away that are supplying the engraving books, these things will become way more expensive. One of the tricky things though, something that we can't stock up on yet, is the class engravings. We don't know if the class engravings will be retroactively added to the selection chest that you get, or if they'll only be available during new content. But to hedge my bets, I'm going to do both. I'm going to stock up on 20 of each tier for my class engraving and hope that they get added to the existing ones that are already there, allowing me to kind of skip the necessity of having to buy them on the auction house. If the inverse happens where these don't get updated with the new class materials, that's going to be something that you want to try to grab initially when they are going to be a little bit cheaper as they're first coming out. You might be thinking, well, how do I manage to have all this gold? You mentioned earlier that gold is hard to come by. How can I afford to do all these things? What you can do is, if you don't have the gold, for example, to invest in the accessories, I would hold off and waiting until the new content comes out. So what we can do is, if we go over to the Abyss dungeons, what they do is they allow us to get accessories that are guaranteed to have one of our 2 class engravings on them. So make sure that when you log onto your Glaivier on the first day, or Destroyer, depending on when you're watching this, that you do these if you don't have the option of affording the ones on the auction house currently. But I would still highly recommend that you get the engraving books now. If you're going to budget for anything, budget for your engravings, as they are not going to be terribly expensive right now, and they will pay dividends having them ready. And also it allows your whole account to have access to those same engravings, which there a lot of the time is a lot of overlap. Do your research, figure out which ones you'll need, and start investing in those now before it's too late. Tip number 5, last but not least. The last thing that I want to mention is that it's still important to be doing your daily content in the game. Even though your new class isn't out yet, it's still important to keep up on your main. Do your guardians, do your chaos dungeons, do your weeklies, do everything that you can as more ways to acquire mats for your characters. One of the things to also mention, though, is that when you do get your new character, whether it be a Glaivier or Destroyer, is when you get into tier 2 initially, it is worth going and repeating these bosses at least once, because you'll get the first time kill bonus that you get for completing a guardian raid on a new character. So even if you only stop and do one of these, or each one of these, one singular time in tier 2 and in tier 3, it'll help you stock up on some extra mats and even give you some accessories with the possibility of rolling some good items. So just because the new classes are coming out, don't skimp on your main right now, and your main, keep in mind, will facilitate getting your new main caught up to where you are currently. I'd originally only planned to do 5 tips, but as I was making this video, I came across something else that I thought was helpful. So why don't we do a bonus one? Who likes bonus stuff? I know I like bonus stuff. Let's do one bonus one. So the last and bonus tip will be to apply everything that I just talked about, whether it be the engravings, accessories, mats, whatever it may be. If you don't plan to play any of the new classes that are coming out, this is an excellent opportunity for you to make gold, and probably a substantial amount of gold. What you can do is take all the aforementioned things and apply them in the same way, but just sell the materials instead of keeping them for your new main. You can even also, depending on how much free time and depending on how much you're able to play, you could even do both. You could stockpile enough mats, finally get enough, and then continue to farm them and then sell those for gold as well. Like I mentioned with the engraving recipes, if you get 20 of your class engraving initially, every engraving after that you can sell for a premium. Gold is hard to make right now, so I would definitely jump on this opportunity. But if you're going to invest in the tier 2 and tier 3 materials, just be wary of your return on investment. They might go up substantially, they might go up a little, but worst case scenario is if you buy them now and then sell them for a little bit higher later, you'll still have made a little bit of decent profit, and any money is super helpful right now. Don't miss the opportunity to make some extra gold. That's going to wrap it up for all the tips I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Now, if you would like, you can click the Twitch link down below, as I do stream there, and also subscribe to the channel, as we will be getting into how to get to 1400 free to play, as well as getting 4 engravings in upcoming videos, and my personal favorite coming up, an in-depth destroyer guide, as that's what I plan to swap to when it comes out. So again, thank you so much, everybody. I hope everybody stays safe, be kind, and I will see you in the next one.